In this video, we're going to see how we can create a win condition for your level, display a win message, and reload the level so you can start playing again. So in this scene, I've created a flagpole, kind of like Mario, that when we jump into, we'll see our win message. And we'll slow down time a little bit, and we'll reload our scene, and time starts functioning as normal. So we'll jump into our flagpole, get a you win message across our screen, and reload our level for us. All right, so let's see how we can replicate this. So here's an empty game scene that we'll get started in. The first thing I'm going to do is recreate that win condition of the flagpole. So I'm going to go ahead and create my flagpole by making a cylinder. I'll reset its positions, and I'll remove the capsule collider component in my inspector. I'm going to make this flagpole really skinny and give it a height of 4. All right, we're just making a simple little flagpole object. Nothing too serious right here. And we're going to name this pole. All right, we got it positioned exactly where we want on the 0 axis. And I'm going to create a cube here, and this is going to be my flag. Again, I'll reset its transforms, remove the box collider, and just shape this flag as I see fit. And we've made a little flagpole. Nothing too fancy, but enough to symbolize a flagpole here. Now I'm going to make an empty game object to parent all of my meshes under. And here we're going to call this flagpole. And I need to rename that cube the flag. Not flat. I'm a good typer today. So I have my flagpole object already made. And why don't I go ahead and get the scripting. So the only thing we need to do with this flagpole is script something for whenever we collide with our flagpole, we trigger our win message and reset our level. Before I need to get, script stuff, I need to actually give it a new collider. So with my flagpole empty game object selected, the empty game object that's parent of my flag and pole meshes, I'm going to give it a capsule collider. And from here, I'm going to use my scene view. Let me shrink my game view so we can see what I'm doing in scene. I'm just going to mess with the height and reposition its Y. Kind of get it right in between, so now I can get it correct. And then adjust the radius to be about the width of my flagpole, maybe a little bit bigger. So that's my collider that I'm going to collide with to trigger my win event. And I want to make sure that this is checked trigger. This trigger is checked true. And why don't I go ahead and just make this a prefab? So I'm going to take my flagpole and just drop it in my prefabs folder. And now we have a flagpole prefab. So when we create our script, our prefab will be updated with any changes we make to it. And I'm just going to call this script C# script flagpole. I'm going to drag and drop it onto my flagpole game object. But you'll notice that my flagpole prefab in my folder doesn't have my script attached to it. Well, my flagpole, my game scene does, so we'll just hit apply on my prefab tabs. And now my flagpole prefab in my folder has my script attached to it. All right, great. Prefabs 101. So why don't I open my flagpole script? And this is going to be some really easy code here. All right. We're going to get rid of everything we don't need, which is pretty much everything in our script. And we're just going to have a void on trigger enter. Actually, let me close that parentheses with some good brackets. And then we're going to comment out, say, trigger win function. All right, we don't have our win function yet, so we're just going to make a comment to remind ourselves what we need to do. So basically, when our player enters our capsule collider we just made, then we're going to trigger our win function. We are going to make a game manager real quickly. So to make a game manager, I'm first going to start with an empty game object, reposition its transforms, and call my new game object game manager. And I'm going to pull it up here at the top of my scene. All right, great. And I need to give it a game manager script. So I'm going to create a new C# script and call this game manager. All right. And while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and drag and drop my Game Manager script onto my Game Manager object. Now my Game Manager object has my script attached, and my Game Manager script has a presence within my level. So I'm going to open up my Game Manager, and we're going to set up a singleton game object, meaning a object where we can call its scripts and functions globally throughout our project here, or our level. All right, so let me pull up my notes here. And so we can get started by saying public static, and then we're going to give our variable type game manager, which is actually the type, the class that we're working in. And we're going to call this variable instance and set it equal to null. Let me spell manager right. I always make that mistake. Hit Control S. This line of code allows us to access an instance of our game manager so we can start calling all of its functions. And then I'm going to make a void awake function. And in this, I'm going to set up the singleton logic. We're going to say if instance equals null, meaning instance is not initialized as anything. We're going to initialize instance as this, meaning the object and the script that we're currently attached to right now. Else if instance does not equal null, meaning, okay, well, instance already has something attached to it. Maybe it's another duplicate game manager. We already have a game manager, so we don't need two. So we're going to destroy this game object. All right, so this basically means there can be no two game managers inside of our scene. So that's our singleton logic set up. This allows us to access functions anywhere in our game, or rather in our current level. So I'm going to go ahead and make a public void when function. All right, this when function is actually going to control the logic for setting up my when. So let's comment it out and get our logic straight. So whenever I win, I want to display a win message. Why don't I slow down time so it's a dramatic win? Time for dramatic effect. And I'm going to reset the game. So these three lines of code, these three different pieces of logic, are what we're going to need to accomplish in this when function. All right. Well, why don't we go back to our flagpole script? And now that we have our when function made in our singleton game manager, I can go ahead and call that when function by saying game manager dot instance dot when, and then close the parentheses. And that's all we got to do for our flagpole script that's attached to our flagpole prefab. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Whenever we collide with our flagpole, we're going to call this function. All right, so how do we display a when message? Well, now we need to set up some UI elements. So in my hierarchy, I'm going to right-click in some empty space. There's many ways you can do this, but I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to right-click, go down to UI, and create a canvas. I'm going to call this UI canvas. I'm going to set it the screen pace overlay, and I'm going to scale with screen size inside of my canvas scaler component. All right, great. And then with my UI canvas selected, I'm going to right-click on my UI canvas, go to UI, and we're going to make a text object. This text object we're going to call uWinText, and we can already see something happening in our scene view here. We can see if we expand my game window, we can see something that says new text. Well, let's position it really nicely. First, I'm going to adjust the width and height to 300 by 300. So we have a big box in which we can type our text. And in fact, I want to make the width 500. All right, great. Then I'm going to make sure in my paragraph, I'm going to center it horizontally and center it vertically. These two little center buttons. And then I'm going to actually type the message I want to display. You win with at least 6 exclamation marks. That's standard on you win messages, I think. And I'm going to increase the font size. It'll be pretty big, I guess. All right, great. I can even position it where I want to have it lie on my screen. And since we're scaling with screen size, no matter how big your window is, you win will always kind of be the same size. It's really nice. All right, so we got our you win text. And for right now, I'm going to deactivate my UN text. So I'm going to select UN in my hierarchy. I'm going to uncheck it. So now we do not see our message. So now we're going to access that UN message text in our code. And we do that by saying public game object UN text. Hit Control S to save that. Now our game manager has a slot where we can take our UN text and assign it to that variable we just declared. So now we have access to our UN text. And in our code, we're going to trigger this active boolean right here. All right, so we're just simply going to say, we're going to delete our display a win message, and we're going to say UN text dot set active equals true. Hit Control S, and now we get a UN message whenever we collide with our flagpole. So why don't we test that out? Well, I can't test it out. I don't have a first-person controller yet. So in my standard assets, I can import them by selecting my assets folder, my very top assets folder, import package, characters. But I already have that imported in. So I'm going to select characters, first-person controller, prefabs, and just drop in a first-person controller and delete my old camera. And then I'm going to take my first-person controller. Where the heck is this first-person controller at? Who knows? So I'm going to reset its transforms. I'm going to pull it back a little bit and increase its height by 0.9. There we go. Even pull it back even more. So now with a first-person controller in my scene, I now have control over where I want to go. And whenever I jump into my flagpole, we get a UN message. But our time doesn't slow, and we haven't reloaded our level yet. So we need to add that code. Then we're going to say, instead of this comment, slow down time, we're going to say time.scale, time scale equals 0.25. So we're going to go quarter speed, or we can do half speed by 0.5. And then we're going to reset the game. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to invoke a function. Invoke allows you to call a function after a certain amount of time. And we're going to make a reset function and have a reset delay variable. So let's make these two things real quickly. A public float, reset delay, and then we're going to make a void reset function. This is going to be a real small function. It's simply going to take our time.scale time and set it back to 1. And we're going to reload our current level. We're going to say application.load level parentheses application.loaded level. End it with a parentheses. So now, after we display our win message and slow down time, then we're going to invoke or call our reset function after a reset delay time. And that's going to have about, a second or two of slow time. And then we're going to call this function. It'll set time back to normal and reload our whole level for us. So in my game manager, I now have a reset delay. I'm going to set after 1 second. So now when I press play, I'll be able to jump into my flagpole. We slow down time, and then reload our level. It's really that easy. All right, so that's how we can win a level, display a message, and reload our game so our players can keep playing until the end of time. All right, thanks for watching.